In the videos in the 4-Minute Fix playlist, I've attempted to dive into all sorts of issues we all deal with, make a quick explanation of why and how that issue develops, and even offer a solution or two. And to do it all in under 4 minutes. Now, many of the topics I covered have gotten quite a bit of attention, so I'm now making a number of series called 4-Minute Fix Extended that dig into each issue a bit deeper. In this series, we'll explore more about perfectionism. Do you know who this is? It's Nadia Comaneci. She was 14 years old in 1976 when she scored the first perfect 10 in Olympics history. The Olympics had a different scoring system then, and a 10 was considered perfection. No flaws, no mistakes, no hesitations, perfection. Never before had anyone received a score of 10. Never before in the history of the Olympics had an athlete been recognized for perfection. Competitions often have us thinking that perfection is not only possible, but the goal. Whether it's a flawless gymnastics or figure skating routine, winning the Tchaikovsky or Van Cliburn piano competitions, receiving an Oscar, scoring a purple ribbon at the state fair, or, being chosen first for your second grade soccer team, we seem to love ranking and sorting each other into categories. And, certainly, this sort of competitive spirit can push us to new heights of skill and accomplishment. And perfectionists love to accomplish things. But there's another side to it as well. A side that reminds me of a story. You see, I once heard of a Westerner who got lost in the Australian outback. He was eventually found by an Aboriginal community, and at one point they began talking about games. And they asked him about the kind of games that his culture played. So he said, you see that tree over there? We'll all line up here, and when I say go, we'll all run toward it as fast as we can. And the first one there wins. Well, he was on the receiving end of a lot of shocked and confused looks. The question he got was, you mean one person wins and everyone else are losers? This just made no sense in a community that saw individuals not as separate from each other, but as part of a collective whole. You see, for them, the achievement of an individual was the achievement of the community. Now, too often, it seems, our competitions are not celebrations of our collective achievement, but rather the glorification of one of us over everyone else. The winner of a competition is recognized as different or separate from everyone else. They're set apart and celebrated for their remarkable achievement, while the rest of us are seen as losers. Now, perfectionism feeds on this sort of separation. And in an article published by mental gymnastics coach, Suni Lee, another Olympic gymnast, reportedly said after falling off the balance beam, I think I was expecting too much of myself, and I feel like I just had to do everything for everybody. Had to do everything for everybody. Sounds like she had taken on responsibility for, her team, her country. In any case, she was carrying weight that wasn't hers to carry. And this is what perfectionism can do. Have us feeling responsible for things that we're not responsible for. Now, I have a friend who is part of a podcast, and part of their responsibility is to compose and produce all the music for the podcast. Now, my friend is a self-acknowledged perfectionist and spends countless hours working and reworking every little detail, composing, recording, tossing it out and starting all over again, and then editing everything to within an inch of its life. The result is amazing. Even so, my friend has this thought in the back of their mind that what they end up with isn't quite good enough. Now, they also acknowledge that their perfectionism is driven more by fear than anything else. Fear of making the wrong choice for the music, fear that if the music isn't just right, they'll be letting the others on the podcast down, that they won't be liked, they'll be seen as unreliable, that all sorts of terrible things will happen. You see, my friend tells the story that doing things perfectly is the only way to be loved and accepted. Or how about the micromanaging boss who insists on perfection not only from him or herself, but all who work under them? Or the partner for whom nothing is really quite good enough? Or the parent who insists on perfection from their child and, well, unwittingly uses shame to ensure the best possible outcome? All of these are examples of perfectionism gone awry. And all of these ensure not the best possible outcome, but often the very worst. Now, I believe we're all on the spectrum of perfectionism. Everything from a niggling little twinge when we recognize a personal flaw at one end, to a national emergency on the other end. You know, when someone completely freaks out because there's an A- on their report card amongst all the other A's, or they didn't get the highest scores possible on their performance review, these are the ones for whom imperfection becomes a national emergency. Now, perfectionism has many things to recommend it. It drives us to do our very best work, and great work makes the world a better place. And it satisfies us in a way that nothing else can. But perfectionism can also turn ugly when it leans toward the national emergency end of the scale. We can find ourselves compelled by perfectionism, like my friend, compelled by fear toward perfection rather than simply choosing to do our best because we find it satisfying. Perfectionism can even cause us to lose track of who we are. Simone Biles said, "At the end of the day, I'm such a huge athlete, but who am I? If you take off that mask, who will I be? I'm still trying to find that out." Okay, I believe that's the work of a lifetime, figuring out who we really are. And Simone is only 27. It makes sense. She's still searching for that answer. What 27-year-old isn't? What's really amazing, though, is her self-awareness around perfectionism. She recognizes that her relationship to her images near perfection sometimes clouds her ability to see herself clearly. Now, most perfectionists I've talked to, though, they're not quite as self-aware as Simone. They either downplay or completely deny how perfectionism strains their relationships, stresses them out, is at the root of all sorts of health problems, and, well, can even create issues with money. They tell themselves that the only way to get what they really want is to be perfect. And the costs? Well, let's not talk about that. With perfectionism, the illusion of a perfect 10 is really just a distraction that robs us of choice, of agency. The illusion is a compelling force that makes us do something rather than choose to do it. Giving up our ability to choose is really giving up our most powerful tool. The loss of choice is what makes perfectionism so costly. Now, later in this video series, we'll see how the force of this compulsion is driven by the stories we tell ourselves and what we can do about it. And in the next video, we'll look at all the benefits of being a perfectionist, and there are plenty. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And until then, I wish you abundance and joy.